I know. I just want
Nothing. We're just giving you the opportunity to say goodbye to the fans.
No, their terms, they had not been met.
What are the terms? Because I think those were...
the old show.
That is not the outro music.
It's not in there.
It's the podcast one. It's the same one. Oh, I love the fact that we're cutting back in. This is still main show, guys.
We are professional podcasters.
That's still main show.
It's not in there.
No. Oh my God, don't stop it again. I mean, every time you stop it, the music hasn't played us out yet, so we're still in the main show. Because we haven't been played out yet. Every time you pause it, we're back in the main show. Just welcome back, everybody. We're still in the main show. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week because we haven't been played out yet. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
I'm Graythorn.
And today we're talking about 3. Hey, look, we rolled low. We rolled low on our ranked topics of easiest to talk about. Watch it be a fucking shit one.
It is logic, balance, and feel.
Ooh.
So, how do we feel about that?
Logically.
Logic, balance, and feel. At least, I think it applies generally to like almost every aspect of it. Sorry, did you say something?
No, I was intentionally not just fucking running head first into this and talking for 10 minutes before either of you guys got a chance to. And what we got was an awkward pause.
I was closing down certain windows and whatever, and as I was starting to steamroll, I just look over to you like wide-eyed looking.
I do that every time. I'm like, balance logic. Oh, well, balance it. And just fucking talk forever. And I was like, I'm gonna take a back seat. I'm gonna give you guys a chance. I'm gonna be calm about this. I'm not gonna steamroll my way through everything. I'm not gonna bulldoze the whole fucking conversation. I'm gonna have a sip of water. And I did so.
Give him 5 minutes.
In silence. I did so in silence.
5
Well,
minutes,
yeah,
I mean,
I've
it's
already
happening
realized
now.
the mistake. I've already realized the mistake. You don't have to give me any time. Here we go.
Our personalities have developed very strongly already in the show.
Yeah. Look, we are who we are. And we're just now doing it in a format where we're talking about D&D related topics. We are just these people. I'm very loud, and how that's come through the podcast is we have to literally curate our space and the way that we record this based off of my loud ass voice. And Sav bulldozes.
Yeah.
We love this about him. But that's how I feel.
If I don't constantly think about taking a back seat, I don't. And I drive the whole fucking thing.
But that's how we balance the podcast. We use the logic.
We're like 5 minutes in, haven't started.
We're still. It feels still like a show.
So, was it balance, logic, and feel?
Yeah, logic, balance, and feel.
Yeah, I feel too tired to unbox feel at the moment. But yeah, so balance being like game mechanics, like balance of power and whatnot, and then logic being like, does this shit make sense? Does it make sense to do within the world? Like when someone wants to, this is like a more extreme example, but like, I feel like oftentimes people think of something that they want their character to do, and like in some campaigns it would work, and in some campaigns it doesn't feel logical. Like, oh, I'm gonna ricochet my throwing knife off of the wall so that I don't have to break my cover, and then have it lodge into the guy.
Sure.
And it's like, that doesn't. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have feats that back those things up, and then do you go with, the balance of the game or the logic, behind what they're doing.
For me too, like some of it also applies to like in terms of sticking to logic. It's when I'm DMing and I try to logically think out the player's impact in a given scenario, and like, oh, my players are in town and they're just doing things that are like, this is getting you all kinds of attention. And like, I've had it too where players come out after that going like, it feels like you're trying to get back at me. It feels like it feels like you're like targeting me. You're targeting us as the team. Like, how can we get anything done? And it's like, dude, you're doing it the most loud and destructive
You're
way
walking
possible.
through the streets punching everybody. You don't think the guards are gonna get involved?
Yeah, it's
But like, so like where I guess where balancing would come into that situation is I've had a lot of players where it's very clear in a conversation, just the way that their mind works, that they don't understand why what they're doing is bad or loud or would have consequences, which is like, in order to keep the game fun for everybody, which the game should be fun for everybody, in order to keep the game fun for everybody, for those players, when they do things, you got to kind of go a little bit light on the consequences. In which case, like, yeah, you're throwing logic to the wind a bit, but like, you're trying to make this fun for each player. And then for other people, they totally get it. And yeah, you could throw the book at them because they're actively trying to get away with things. And and if there are no consequences, then there's nothing to try to get away with. They can just do whatever they want.
yeah, it's again, it's that logic balance feel, which is logically you want your consistency in the world, or you want like to you what makes sense. Balancing that out with what your players are doing. Also, if people are having fun and you have no reason to try to implement these balance and logic, whatever, like, does it feel right? Does it feel right in the party? Does it feel right that this is happening?
Yeah.
You know, like, are you okay with doing like the wizard in our main campaign, or our old main campaign that we used to run? It's the like the level of stuff that he wanted to do almost on the government level of like the government that I established because he wanted a government this involved. But like, also like it felt right. It wasn't necessarily logical or not that balanced to like have the underground, organizations, the underground criminal organizations do a little favor for him and like set him up in a little spot and do this thing to kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, thanks for helping us. Here's a thing. Like, it just felt right. It felt right in the moment to be like, yeah, here's the thing. Like, hopefully this sparks something else happening or whatever. I mean, there was some logic behind it.
If there's enough to make it make sense.
Yeah.
And then like, I mean, there's other instances where you just use logic to punish your players.
Yeah. Well, would I use logic to punish my players? I think that comes more in the feel dimension. Because in my head, logic exists outside your game. It exists in, the real world, right? Like, can you breathe underwater? No. And then the balance is, well, we can let you stay underwater for an amount of rounds equal to your constitution score.
Yeah, to me, balance is just mechanics.
And then, yeah, balance exists outside of your actual game itself. It's supposed to be there to make it a game.
Yeah.
And then the feel is, well, if your guy can, I don't know, if your guy's this big and he comes from a race of people who like to live underwater or dive underwater for extended amounts of time, sure, we could give you an extra 2 rounds of breath. That feels right.
I feel like feels and logic have a lot of overlap.
It is, but it's like feels is logic when you're trying to pull it into your game.
I also think these 3 concepts apply to every aspect of the game. So like, yes, balance does apply. It's easy to not easy, but it's quick to think that like it applies to like the mechanics of the game. But like, I kind of like what I was saying earlier, where like balance could also apply to like your storytelling of the game. It could, again, mechanically, kind of how you focused on, which is, there's a balance to how any general character could breathe underwater. And then you can add the feel layer to it. Again, logically also, like, you can't breathe underwater.
How would I put it this way? It's sort of like,
I think it all applies.
Balance applies to the game itself and making the game work. Logic is how things work in the real world, and feels is trying to make them work together.
No, I think it's a great point. I just think it like that's a good way to apply it in that way. I just think like that feels like it's more centered on the like how the game is played. And I think you could also apply logic, balance, and feel to like the story you're telling as well. Like, yes, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's a really good point too. Again, using logic, real world, balance for the game, and then, but yeah, for me, it's interesting to see how far you could apply those 3 points to like every aspect of the game.
Oh yeah, if you get nuanced enough, like all of it always comes into play.
Yeah.
But like, by the way, we can continue going on in the string that we're going on. I think when we originally wrote this topic, we were talking about designing things.
I mean, we can get there.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. I just wanted to bring that up so that we get there eventually. What I was going to say about logic and in the terms that we're talking about it, what's really interesting that we've seen multiple times and I've experienced recently is like logic exists within your head. What you think is logical, other people might not. And there can easily be, and we've seen it multiple times, a dispute of what logic is at the table, of like how things work or how things should work, like ship trajectories, collision course, or whatever it was, ramming course or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, you kind of got to go soft with the logic in scenarios like that, or when you have a difference of perspective with someone, because otherwise, if their logic and your logic don't line up, then you're gonna have like combativeness at the table of like, why doesn't this work? And then in scenarios where air quotes punishment, which is the player word for the DM's word consequence. Consequences, if a player doesn't think that something should have consequences or doesn't think the consequences are reasonable, they're gonna have bad feel at the table. Like, you know what I mean? They're gonna be upset because they don't think that what they did merits the consequences of their actions. And we've experienced that. Even in lighter moments where like, this isn't me complaining about Ace by any means, but he had a little bit of bad feel when he sent 1,000 letters in a day, where he was like, "Oh, I'm infiltrating these bad guys. Also, I'm going to disappear after every single meeting and send a letter." And in the moment, he didn't realize why, and we didn't have the above table talk, and because of that, in the moment, he was like, "Why are you ambushing me in a game that has such heavy consequences for combat?" And like, you know, you could be level 20 and die to an NPC one-on-one, and you're putting me against 3 gunfighters, and you're surrounding me. Like, oh, there's no way for me to live in this situation. And then in the DM brain behind all of that, it was like, no, there was plenty of ways for you to live not getting to this situation. You got you here.
Yeah.
But in the end, he hadn't realized the things that he had done to get him there. And when we had the above table talk, he totally got it. But at the table, he had, you know, a little bit of hurt feelings because he didn't think that his actions merited those consequences. Yeah. And in my mind, at the time, and I try to think about things a little bit differently now from multiple angles, but in my mind at the time, it was like obvious. In fact, Gray, I think you said that you were like, in your head, you had already called it.
Oh, yeah, I was in a similar mindset too.
Yeah. But if you didn't clock it, if you clocked it, why would you make those decisions?
I mean, because at this point, he was split from the party. I was already, at least from what I remember, being like, okay, he saw this guy. Oh, he's going to go write a letter. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna have a meeting. Okay, cool. That's good. He's doing it. Ace is doing
He's
it.
infiltrating.
He's gotten in there. Like, cool. Oh, he fucked up. Maybe he shouldn't have said that. Damn it, he shot a gun in the middle of in a public street. Damn it, that was a dumb idea. Oh, they didn't necessarily hate him for that. Oh, cool. All right, big meeting. Okay, he's writing another letter. Okay. That's fine. Okay. They're setting up another meeting. Okay. All right, he's getting the details. Cool. He's getting the details of everything. He's writing another letter. He's going to the okay, yep, he's going to the post office.
Back to the post office.
I think
writing another
how
letter.
many letters was it? Was it 4?
It was 4 or 5.
I think at the third one I'm like, why is he doing this?
I was just like, dude, you can't and especially because it was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the bad guys' hotel where the bad guys are. Cool. What's the next thing you're doing, Ace? I'm going to the post office. Okay. All right, cool. You're gonna do all right after the post office. You're gonna do normal day. Okay. All right. I have a meeting with the bad guys in their hotel. Cool.
Get to get the details of a mission. Cool.
All right. Immediately right after this, where are you going, Ace? I'm going to the post office. It's like, dude, what? Do something else. Go have a beer.
Maybe also just like, maybe have a day or two. Then go to the post office. Maybe another day or two. Then go to the post office. Like literally, I think 3 of them were in the same day. But anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is, bringing it back a little bit, what matters is in his mind, those things seem reasonable. He didn't think that there would be a snitch at the post office for any reason.
Yeah.
And then, so in his mind, the letters weren't a bad thing. And like, also, like in his mind, it doesn't matter how many letters I sent. I'm a free American. I'm a free American. I can send as many letters as I want. And it's like, yeah. But also, it looks suspicious. You're infiltrating this gang. And like, you're right. You could send a letter whenever you want. But also, it was literally every interaction you had with the bad guys that you're infiltrating, you would immediately go send a letter. So, and as soon as we brought that above table, he was like, yeah, that makes sense, blah, 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 blah. But in the moment, it felt bad.
Yeah,
because he thought I just decided to kill his character.
Yeah, again, it's playing with the logic of a world that you're making, where there is a town that has been corrupted.
Not just the logic of the world, but also the logic of the DM or the logic of the player.
Yeah, but like you're playing with a world in which a town has been taken over by a gang or whatever. It was also like another moment where I think it was that same town where like we had come in, I think also separately from another group of people. And then they came into town and we're like busting down doors of bars.
Yeah.
And like loudly announcing themselves and making themselves just known. And it was like, hey, we know this is a corrupt town. We know, like, we also know they don't like us here. Like, you probably shouldn't be kicking down saloon doors and saying, I'm this big shot person and I'm looking for this other person. Have you seen him?
Yeah, you guys are lucky that there just wasn't enough time for those things to have consequences.
it was just something where I was like,
because that happened.
I was just like, dude, like I get it. You know, this is like, I've been seeing clips every once in a while of, what's that movie? Buster Scruggs or?
Oh yeah. Buster Scruggs? I don't know.
It's like he's a really good actor. It's like a white suit cowboy outlaw thing. But yeah, Buster Scruggs, I think. But it was just like, yeah, man, you want to be that character. I get it, especially like Hollywood cowboy. You want to walk into the bar.
There's ways to be that character in G&G though that aren't the way they did it.
Yeah. It's also like
you got to pick your where and when. And you got to do it as a group. If the group is constantly going incognito, then you don't do that. If you go to a town where incognito doesn't matter, now's your chance.
Yeah.
It's your time to shine.
But it's also like, it's the limitations of the kind of like balance that G&G tries to bring to a setting also does limit that cartoonish depiction.
Absolutely.
Of the grand hero, or not hero, he's kind of not really a hero, but like the grand idea of like that like mythical cowboy in the Wild West.
So, a smooth segue. When I was designing that game,
Yeah.
to talk about these topics through design, you're absolutely right. It was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be cartoony, and you're not supposed to be. To a degree, you're not supposed to be Clint Eastwood. It is logic over balance as often as I could find it when designing the game, and then special actions. And the special actions, all of a sudden, you get those moments.
Yeah.
Through the special actions, you get those moments where you can fan the hammer and just erase someone. And that's where you get your like hero. It's not cartoony, but it's like old Wild West superhero cowboys.
That would be the thing, is that like even with that, like
Put that in for the feels.
yeah, even with the special actions, most of the special actions, some of them feel like your character would have to be in the high percentages of like good at that task, which again, you're the protagonist of a story. So yeah, you'd be in the upper percentages of people representing whatever skill or benefit that you
Depends on your level.
Depends on your level. Depends on how many special actions and which special actions you use.
Yeah.
And how many slots you have of that. But still, like, but even then, your special actions aren't like, to me, they're not crazy. Fanning the hammer, erasing somebody, but it's not automated. You still have to roll for each one of those. You lose some of the benefits.
It gives you the option to erase someone.
Yeah,
where otherwise the normal mechanics of the game don't.
Yeah. You get more immediate fires, but again, the balance part of limiting how much you get to apply some of your ability stats to this thing. It's based off how many rounds are left in your gun.
Yeah.
So like you have to do it early if you have a revolver, if you have a revolver, which everyone has a revolver, but like you couldn't do it near the end of a battle. You had to do it after a reload if you want to get a full fan off. Like it's there's a lot of things you have to think about versus again, Buster Scruggs type, but like, Sylvester Stallone movie, your gun is always full. When you go to fan the hammer, that bitch got fucking 12 rounds in it. It's always going to have fucking rounds, and every shot's going to hit.
Well, almost every scenario in the Dollars trilogy is like he gets in a gunfight and before it starts he's going to headshot everybody.
Yeah.
And like that, it doesn't go, the special actions don't go that hard into you being Clint Eastwood, but they go pretty far into it compared to the normal mechanics. The normal mechanics, that doesn't exist. The normal mechanics, you're just a gunfighter against a gunfighter, or a normal person against a normal person, and it's pretty brutal. And it does not favor the players intentionally.
Yeah.
And then you go a little bit away from that logic into feels being a distinction of like, yeah, but sometimes it feels good to do really cool shit in a fantasy game. So special actions, you could do this like fun shit. And then balance just being the general mechanics of the game of making sure everything is relatively powered correctly. And
I mean, when we were designing, or when I was helping you design the G&G, my big push was always the what was it called? Something of choice.
yeah, I tried to think of that literally last night. I couldn't think of what it was.
I can't remember.
Like dilemma of choice or
Something like that. But it's when it's
hard to choose between two different things because they're both good.
Yes. Or not even necessarily that they're both good, but they both look like, well, yeah, good. They both look like options that I would want to take.
Yeah.
So like it's in my mind when I'm creating a game, I understand the concept, and as somebody who played like Magic the Gathering, and I listened to a lot of like conversations from one of the creative director for it, and the lead game designer, and his aspects are, he would talk about like purposely designing bad cards because you need bad cards for whatever his ideas. In my mind, I don't know. We're not building a card set that has 250 unique cards or whatever and have to blah blah blah. We're not trying to sell booster packs.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing that. In a game where there are some, like, limited options, I don't see why. I get eventually you'll have, like, just in the creative process when you create 10 different abilities, that, yeah, some of them are going to be a little bit weaker. But I'd prefer it if, like, they're weaker in different aspects. Like, if you happen to lean in a particular direction, yes, some of them will appear weaker because you want to kind of lean in a particular way with how you use the character and how you use the abilities. But if you lean in that other direction, I want it to feel like you're leaning in that other direction, and that those things that you thought were weak, oh, if I play this way, if I play this style, these things are so fucking powerful. They're so good in this unique use of how I'm gonna use it. And these other things I thought were really powerful when I was playing this other type of character, I don't want them. They're not good for what I'm trying to do. And I remember trying to apply that and trying to really push that for, like, the different archetype classes.
Yeah.
That you were building with, like,
It was also really hard to make sharpshooter not the class.
yeah.
In a shooting game, the class surrounding aim is so appetizing to everybody.
Yeah, it's like D&D with, like, the baseline being fighter. Where, like, I forgot what their statistic was from, like, Hasbro, where it's like
Most people are human male fighters.
yeah, it's like 60% or 50% of the player base or something like that.
Yep.
It's like a crazy high number of people, like, default to that class. And, like, again, I get it. And same thing with G&G. When we release it, and when we release, like survey polls of, like, how people play the game and what parts people don't or do or whatever, or, like, what classes are your players playing, I imagine G&G is going to be like 40% sharpshooters, if not higher than that.
I think we did a really good job reworking the other classes.
I think we did too.
At least the other combat classes.
I just think based off of the name, and if you were to approach the game from the idea of, like, guns,
Yeah.
and, like, shooting, like,
Oh, sharpshooter.
sharpshooter.
Oh, it's the aim class.
yeah,
Instantly, people
Yeah.
will read no further.
yeah. And again, like, we did our best, to really push for Featherfoot to be awesome.
Yeah.
And to, like, what's the name of the intelligence place class now? Is it still Savant?
I think it's savant. It used to be scholar, and we were like, "Oh, scholar sounds like a nerd."
Nerd.
Get the nerd out of here.
But, like, we have many sit downs and many iterations of ideas of, like, and what's your brute, like, trying to come up with fucking cool names like Brute.
Yeah.
Featherfoot being the coolest of that, like, oh, this is the dexterity based, like,
Yeah.
So, like, trying to come up with cool names to push people away from, like, you look at the list of classes and you go, sharpshooter's number 1. Oh, what's that? Is that fucking
What if we just
Brute?
rename sharpshooter dumbass? Everything else has these cool names, and sharpshooter's dumbass. It's the aim class. Yeah, but I don't want to be a dumbass.
Don't be basic. That's the class.
Don't be basic.
A basic bitch class.
Honestly, at least when it comes to D&D and marshals, man, I enjoy an all marshals party.
It's fun.
It's also just easy to write for.
Yeah. I mean, I like magic. So, like,
Yeah, but, like, I'm just saying it's easy to write for because, like, very limitedly what everybody can do. And so it's just, I don't know.
If there's a problem that needs to be solved, it's not going to be done in a flick of a finger.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and in the stylings of a flick of a finger either. Like, it's gonna be done by hacking and slashing, and so the confrontations to present are hack and slash confrontations. It's just easy to write for. And I think it would be really fun to have a full sharpshooter where they just run around headshotting everybody. Honestly, I think all of them, it'd be really fun to have an all quick draw where it's just, like, literally always your team goes first. Your whole party just goes first every time, and with all of the different special actions, you could just, like, erase everybody before in the surprise round erase everybody, and there just is no combat throughout the campaign.
5 fan hammers all at the same time.
Fucking everybody being brutes.
That's the one I want to see.
Everybody being brutes and
everyone-
just get in their face and hack everybody to shit.
Just recreate like on the next level, the Kung Fu Hustle. I have like a hammer gang. Like everyone just has a hammer, like various size hammers. And it's like a race for your characters to try to run up to each, like, to just run up for melee in a fucking gun game. Just like, ah.
I think there's also the multi-classing works really well amongst the combat classes.
Oh, yeah. I that was one of the things where, like, exploring that in the home game that we were playing. Like, the benefits that you get from multi-classing were just so good to be able to do the, like, it's again that like having that choice being so important and focusing on choice. When we were continuing to retool the designs and I decided to switch my main character to being from a sharpshooter and switching to Featherfoot plus Brute.
Yeah.
Featherfoot plus Brute. Because I had an idea that happened in the plane of the story, which is I wanted to.
You have the speed to get to them, and then you have the brutality to annihilate them once you're there.
Them quickly, yeah. So it was just like I want to play this like assassin, essentially assassin type character. And again, it was that idea that like once I started leaning in a direction, leaning in a way to play the game, it opened up like, oh, combining things in this particular way is like this ability is no longer that good. This one's so great. This one's so strong. And it's like, to me, that was like super fun to be able to explore that. And I get that, like, that's probably every game. Like Pathfinder probably has that, D&D probably has that where like, if you want to play in particular ways, you definitely could push and,
I do think
and stacking certain things.
But in D&D, there are certain classes that don't mesh well. Like, I know that like, I was gonna say brute, barbarian, and something where barbarian and any mage, because like I think you can't cast magic when raging.
Yeah,
and it's like immediately, what do barbarians do? They rage. I did, however, write. I don't want to talk too much about it because one of my players, if they are ever listening before this happens, I did write a really cool character, and I made them as a player character. Like a level player character, because their purpose is to duel, to goad one character into dueling. And it's a rogue. What did I make it? I think I went full rogue. But intentionally am not going to sneak attack. I went full rogue. But they're gonna use a great sword that I'm gonna describe as like a fucking huge anime sword or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of that is to be able to, the uncanny dodge. I'm just gonna uncanny dodge like every single turn. So no sneak attack, uncanny dodge every single turn. So that like every time they hit me and just reducing the damage.
Yeah.
Like a sword deflect or all of the different ways you can narratively paint that. I'm trying to give them their Souls moment, their FromSoft moment of fighting a really big thing with a really big sword, and then like, yeah.
Was it iframes?
Iframes?
Invulnerability frames.
Yeah. In Souls games, it's iframes is like when you roll.
Yeah.
There's like a half second, or there's like a whatever.
While you're rolling, you are invulnerable.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's just a terribly run class. It's just based on the equipment.
Yeah.
But like, I picked it so that I could put this giant sword down in the dirt in front of them, and then just sneak attack the shit with my fists.
I mean,
out of them with the fucking rockish audacity or whatever, the swashbuckler shit. So it's just gonna be fisticuffs, but they're heavy hitting fisticuffs because it's like plus like 3d6 for the sneak attack, and then like when the fight inevitably starts going bad, they're gonna pick up their sword and just uncanny dodge every turn.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been
because the duel you could do that. Unless I decide not to duel, in which case this character just gets annihilated. Just absolutely wrecked.
Yeah, I mean, you've always had like a penchant for that, for like that like
Broken characters.
not necessarily broken characters, but like combining certain things in certain ways and then just like using them how you feel, and like not necessarily using like the tools given to you to like to again, going back to the topic, to like there's a logical way to play out the mechanics of a character and the mechanics of the game, which is like, at least the way I look at it. When I logically look at a character, like, oh, I'm going to boost these stats. I'm going to play the character this way. So I get the optimal amount of damage and optimal amount of usage out of the character that I can.
I don't think that's necessarily logic.
I'm sorry. I'm saying that's the way
It's the way you think.
It's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's wrong. I mean, people optimize all the time. It's just there's different types of players.
it's the you know, it's the power gaming. It's the like trying to get like the biggest hit and the biggest moments I can out of the character. But there, you know, in the previous campaign that we ran, there was so many times where it was just like you were just like, yeah, but I just want to do this. Like, this feels cool to me.
Yeah.
I want to have a character that has this whole thing where he runs around and like he's unhittable, and then I hit people with 1d4 weapons.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, cause it's fun. Like, I just want to do that. It's like, all right, man. Yeah. Like you could have like a magical 1d8 in both hands that do like another plus 3d8 damage on top. Like, you could be this fucking crazy DPS.
Oh, also,
AC.
like, my character is statted in a way where all I have to do is pick up those weapons.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but you know, like, no, I just want a couple darts in my hands.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, man, fucking
I want
cool.
to throw darts and I want to stab with darts.
Yeah, I'm gonna stab him with a dart. I'm gonna run around him 80 laps, and then my AC is gonna be 32. Try to hit me. It's like, all right, cool, dude. I guess it's like, well, let's roll. I got a crit. If I don't crit, then I got nothing. Yeah, that's not a crit. Let's keep going. What are you doing? I'm gonna stab him a couple more times. I'm gonna go run to the bank real quick. Come back. Is he still there? Cool.
That was a fun character to play. I like doing that. I like weird. I like it more as a DM though, because like this character I think would be moderately well in a combat-oriented campaign. The character I'm talking about would be boring to play. In a normal campaign, I think it'd be fine, but in a combat campaign, I think it would be boring to play. But the nice thing about being a DM is I don't have to write for campaigns for NPCs that I'm making out of PCs. I can make a PC that I think is neat for a very specific use case, use them once, and now they're dead.
Yeah. You could try something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get to play with the character creation.
You know, speaking of logic, balance, and feels,
You know, it'd be logical.
you know what would be logical?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Come on, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's get hyped.
Let's go
On
and
the loot
Yeah.
table.
on the loot table. Let's go and
got
see
Yeah.
who our sponsors will be.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go roll on the loot table.
Come on, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Today's sponsor, the Six. Also, I'm going to go to the restroom while you guys are doing sponsors. It's important for everybody in the podcast to know about
Yeah, you didn't have to say anything.
that. Let me explain
Actually, you
what
know
I'm
what?
going to do.
People would know. People would notice. Yeah, how come that one guy
Where's
stopped
the
talking?
bulldozer?
Bulldozer stopped speaking. Where is he at?
All right. 6 would be Forge Mates. Introducing Forge Mates, where adventurers meet to share in the thrill of swordplay and more. Dive into a world of romance and adventure, where men of all kinds of class and background forge bonds that transcend both Dungeons and Dragons. Whether you seek a knight to sweep you off your feet, or a mage to evoke the sparks of passion, Forge Mates is your portal to finding both adventure and romance. Take the plunge to the caverns of desire with your Forge Mate today, because in this realm, love knows no boundaries.
I'm glad you kept it together for that.
I ain't die that time.
I still remember
It was close. I could feel the tingles.
I don't know if we should release that at some point, but your original, when we originally tried to read that out, you would break every single time.
I needed like 5 or 6 takes, I think.
Oh,
because
God.
I don't know what it was, but that plunge to the Caverns of Desires was just too much for me to say straight.
I mean, you know, the thing about Forge
It'd be hard to
Mates-
say any of that straight.
Yeah. The thing
Well,
about
good thing
Forge
I'm
Mates-
gay.
Yeah. The thing about Forge Mates is they know what they're trying to sell. So their ad read it's to the point. It's to the point of plunging into caves because you know that's the idea. You're gonna swipe. You can get on the app. You're gonna swipe for the caves that you. Granted,
You're trying so hard.
I really am. I'm trying. I don't know. I can't.
Look, man, it's just not the app for you. That's okay. You know, it's not for everybody.
I'm trying to role.
Me
play
and
here.
Gray, you know, we could partake. You wouldn't do well on there. That's all I'm saying.
See, you're just a regular human male fighter.
I mean, I am a basic bitch. I can't. You know.
It's totally optimized.
You're trying to give love to the ad read, man. You know.
You were really trying.
I was really
You were
trying.
stumbling all over your trying.
Uh,
You know what I'm really excited for is that I'm going to be the one to edit this, and that's going to be the first time I hear it because I was out of the room.
We read it well.
I believe it.
Clean, straight.
It
through.
didn't take you 10 tries?
No, it's all right. Gay's no longer funny. I'm sorry.
It was funny, and then you started using the app.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then you were like, "Oh, I'm finding out things about myself. This is great."
yeah. I'd love to plunge in these caves. You know, not always taking the plunge. Sometimes the plunging goes the other way.
Hey, you know, Forge Mates, it's designed for all kinds.
Yeah. Well,
Well.
no,
Only
you're
2
not-
out of the 3
I'm
kinds.
sorry,
here.
Nix. I didn't think I had to say it again, but you're not invited.
I'm the hype man in the back, you know, it's like, you know.
Come on, everybody.
Come on, everybody. You got this, buddy? Get in that cave, bro.
Good stuff.
Good ad read. Well, yeah, anyways, the logic and balance.
God, that was so gay.
It's too much.
I
I feel like I'm too tired to understand our own topic. And it's 3 words.
I think we had a good moment with like its application because I do remember when we were coming up with the topic list that like the main driving point of why we put that on there was in terms of design.
Yeah, and like how much do you focus on the balancing your mechanics so that mechanics make sense and it can be playable? How much of your design is coming from a mechanical standpoint, and how much of it is coming from logic within the genre or theme or whatever of what you're trying to make?
And like kind of like I was talking about it a little bit when even before we were recording, which is the like because we're all designing the system, and the first system I'm designing is very centered around magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so like applying this concept, even kind of like what we talked about a little bit, where like choice being relevant. So like I'm applying that principle to the game too, but even the logic, balance, and feel, like I said it to Gray, which is like, I'm not a like my creativity doesn't lie in like it can, but it doesn't baseline lie in this like gritty, realistic, low magic, frame point, like frame of reference. My frame of reference and like what I grew up watching is fucking Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and like I want wild, big shit to happen. So when I'm making a game system and mine being centered around magic, I want to feel like it's an anime. I want to feel like it's this big cartoon, like it's this big, like I want to have that big pop, of like it's big giant fantasy shit is happening. Kind of like I talked earlier about how like I like Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering, you're summoning demons and like you're making fucking mountains explode with your magic. In terms of like these are what the cards are depicting and everything. So like I want to be able to have a game where you as mages kind of recreate that. So if you want to fucking have the mountain explode, or you want to cast down meteors, or you want to like wreathe yourself, like something great said, like emulate or set yourself on fire and fucking grab somebody.
Isn't your system pretty low health though?
That's part of the balance. Is I want to have these big things happening. I currently, in the last editions of it, I did have a relatively lower health pool, but I don't know how much I want to play with that. Where like maybe I do have slightly higher health pools to allow for kind of bigger things to happen.
Yeah, because if you have a low health pool and you get hit with the mountain, but the idea of your thing is also that like it's protagonist centric, right? In terms of mages, like you are the mages, and then the world is more mundane, and so you are the ones doing epic things in this world. Not to say that your enemies are going to be mundane. Probably you're going to be fighting magical creatures and whatnot, but from a mage standpoint, protagonists.
The general concept, at least the story that this system bled off from, was that you are like the world is low magic, but you are high magic.
Yeah.
Like, so the concept being that like yes, you are the greatest source and display of magic that this world has seen or most people have seen. So like there is a level of like playing with it where like potentially if there is player to player combat, because that's the only consequence of having.
I think initiative just wins there.
Sure, I'm just saying.
You're throwing mountains and you have low health.
the consequences of player to player combat when the players have magic and the players being low health. The way I could potentially just kind of like in my head invert that or deal with that is if you are a magic caster in this world, there is resistance that your body has to magic based effects. So that's the reason why you have a quote unquote higher health pool.
Or you have like inherent magic
resistance,
but not mundane resistance.
Yes, you have inherent resistance to magical effects, which could be the reason why.
That's cool.
Like your characters, your abilities might not do a lot of damage, and you might be low health pools, so that mundane things do consequently a lot of damage to you, and your magic would do a lot of damage to mundane things, but that damage would also do very little things to you as a mage.
Yeah,
because it's all relatively low HP. So again, it's finding that where do I want the field to be? Do I want the field to be? I want my players to roll like. Do I push into that concept of big things are happening? So I want my players to grab a fistful of dice and throw a fistful of dice on a table to be like, I'm summoning a fucking dragon of ice that's gonna come down or leap from my fucking whatever my mouth and fucking hit this whole area, whatever. I want to grab a fistful of D6s and throw it on the table. Like, is that the feel that I want to go for? Or is it just narratively that's the description and the dice plays out in its own unique way of how I'm going to deal with dice and damage and all that? So it's the game is still in such an early like manifestation of itself. And
it's hard to tell if you're going logic or balance. Like it sounds in certain parts of what you're describing, it sounds like you're going more just logic, but the logic of that world, where you could throw mountains at each other.
But in terms of like design space,
meteors down.
What was that?
You could bring meteors down and fucking have meteors collide with the Tyrannosaurus and then fucking like just super epic, really large scale, but not really balanced mechanics because you couldn't have other mages in the world. Otherwise, your characters would just have to go first or die.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's in terms of like when we first wrote down the topic, it's just designing, but designing with these things in mind, with these principles in mind, to be like, It's like the same thing with talking about like D&D. When you try to analyze D&D and how it was made and like the decisions they made for the game, the thing we always talk about is like it feels like the characters are superheroes.
Yeah.
It feels like the design of the game was so that the player feels powerful.
Well, and like also like all of the classes feel powerful in D&D. Like clerics are such powerhouses, and paladins are such powerhouses, and rogues, yeah, they have less attacks, but that one attack can be massive, and like it just everybody is so massive. Also, the way that leveling scales, your world would have to fall apart logically. Otherwise, if it doesn't fall apart logically, then the mundane salesperson that it would be too risky to fight in the beginning of the campaign, you could just erase them later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, yeah, if anything, you should just level up really high or reasonably high and then go back to the first town wherever you were and rule it, because you would be able to do that. You'd be able to rule the first town that you ever went to, because when you were in that town, it was scary and dangerous because everything was slightly higher level than you. And now they're so far beneath you.
It's also like when we were coming up with Realm Watchers, or when we were playing Realm Watchers, like I mean, if we haven't talked about Realm Watchers yet, that's our way to play 2014 D&D. Is that a way to
You
phrase
just
that?
say 5e.
5e. But a way to play 5e was like part of dealing with that. Part of dealing with like what Wizards of the Coast and what Hasbro considered common, uncommon, and rare, and legendary and artifact.
Yeah.
Like its classifications of
And
magic.
also just like, oh yeah, you are a superhero in the world, but you're not fighting the world.
Yeah, you're fighting particular
You're
things.
fighting demigods and shit.
Yeah. And it's like our baseline level 8, and like the things that you fought at level 8 in D&D was like, those are still really big things and really big threats.
Yeah.
And like then you add on top of it the concept of Realm Watchers, which is your characters have access to magic items. And then like playing with those magic items and being like, oh, we want Realm Watchers at higher levels so we can get access to higher level gear. And like when we had the floodgates open where you can use like legendary and artifact weapons, it was like, oh, the balance just goes out of the window.
Yeah.
Like you're
Massively.
like, I faced.
I mean, those are supposed to be really hard to get in the campaign.
Yeah. They're supposed to be these very, hard things to get, but it was still like it was still interesting seeing like given these items to players and then trying to, as a DM, face them against something that would be a severe consequence.
Yeah.
And like, how does that play out? And just
How
like,
big of bads you had to do
yeah,
with 3 level 8s.
yes. And how much it makes sense, at least right now, thinking about it, where like the big giant creatures of D&D have legendary actions, have like 6 legendary actions with like recharge abilities that affect the whole fucking like play like battlefield. And it's like, yeah, and layer actions too. And we didn't even play a lot with that when we did Realm Watchers. We didn't do a lot of like layer action stuff.
Mm-mm.
At least I didn't. I don't know if you did, Gray. But like to me, like, okay, this all makes sense. It's so much for you to keep track of as a DM. And I would lose track of all that shit all the time. Where like I would design creatures to have like the layer actions or the special actions, or the not special actions, the legendary actions to deal with the balancing out of having 3 other players that I'm facing against 4 other players, to make it so the creature is strong but not too strong where I'm just TPKing. But I'm, again, the goal of Realm Watchers being killing 1 or 2, trying to kill 1 or 2 Watchers. And so trying to balance that out and remembering it and dealing with like, I don't know, man, it was fun. It's a fun exercise to look at D&D in that way, to see how did they try to design this?
Well, I mean,
And,
it's
like,
also
and how to break it.
designed for you to be fighting those things. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Gray, but in your world, if I were to fight a dragon, what level would I need to be?
Oh, and like you're the
Can I even do it ever?
On your own?
Group of 3.
Depends on the age, because I still do the Dragon Ages stuff.
What's the easiest age? Young?
Let's say a dragon
young.
with a horde.
A young dragon.
A dragon with a horde?
Yeah.
No, not with 3 people. Not with 3 level hits.
I was just wondering.
Well, I just want to know if it was possible at all.
Possible at all, yeah.
It's funny because like I talk to people about the 5e superhero thing, and they're like, I don't know what you mean, and it's like, bro, you're fighting dragons. Like, what are you talking about? Level 1, you can't fight a farmer. Level 8, you're fighting dragons. Dragons, my dude. Like, it's Dragon Ball Z level X, like evolution of difficulty, and like, and by the time you get like level 12 and up, you have to start fighting like vampiric lords and demigods and shit like that, because that's what's comparable to what you are as a party. Not
As a party,
not as an individual, but still. And it's like, yeah, like the idea that like you would be that powerful and would go to any town and see resistance. You know what I mean? And like, how do you logic around that? How do you write for lower levels and then make it so that they can't just turn it into murder hoboing later by going back to that town?
Oh, it was kind of like it reminded me of a game we played with Realm Watchers, where you had surprised me, my character, by ambushing my character.
Oh, that was just a funny fuck you, yeah.
No, sure. But that created a thing I instilled in that character where he had this vendetta against this town. But again, the restrictions applied to Realm Watchers.
Yeah,
when a
your oath.
town full of citizens turned on him, I mean, there were also powerful people there too, but like when a town full of citizens turned on him, he couldn't just attack the people. He couldn't just randomly start killing innocent people, because then his life is forfeit.
Yeah.
So like he had to contemplate, once I lose this thing that's binding me to the watch, I'm going to go back to this town. And again, I think at the point that he had, been done with with the part that he played in the story, he was like level 12. If he was level 12 and a level 12 person decided to go to a city and
To go back to that town.
where it's just full of citizens, yeah, it would be a massacre. It would just be this one man army, flying through citizens.
So it was just turn economy. That's how I beat you up.
Yeah,
They weren't very powerful. It was just turn economy.
yeah.
I mean, they were more powerful than the citizen, for sure. Also, what does being more powerful than the citizen mean? It's like you're level 0. Okay. You're like Dexter from Dexter's Lab, level strong. All right, now you're level 1. All right, you're like 10 Arnolds in a tank.
Yeah.
So powerful.
I mean, it's also like the I guess it also makes me want to continue to experiment and play with like other systems and other games.
Yeah, system exploration. Let's go. Sneak peek system exploration. TTRPGs. I forget how my little speech started.
But especially as again us trying to come from like a design point, it definitely helps like
Absolutely.
to want to play these things and to trying to analyze these things. And at least in my mind, I feel like at least again trying to stray a little bit back to the topic, we're like,
Boo, topics are for losers.
Nerd. But like these 3 points, like at least for me, they're very important when it comes to designing and try to like analyze the design of these other games.
Well, we talked about it a lot, like things being more for balance than logic. G&G originally, you could, for a long time, you could take a -10 and call a headshot. And then we took that out because, like, for the balance of the game, it made it, the amount of modifiers you can get towards your aim which is good. I like that. I like the idea of you being just a sensitive little meat puppet and just really easy to shoot down. But the reverse of that is that your modifiers are so high for your aim that you can automatically shoot someone. Like you don't even need to roll for it at a certain point. I like that from a logic standpoint, being able to get that good at aim. But from a balance standpoint, being able to call an instant kill was too much.
It was also even feel too, where it was, as we were playing the game, again, also as somebody who's helping design the game too.
Yeah.
Like sitting there playing the game and seeing a player like they were enjoying themselves, and that was the part that was probably the worst aspect of trying to balance out this mechanic.
Yeah.
Is the player was feeling great. Me as a designer and coming at it from that point of view, like the feel of what he was doing is like, this feels like it's breaking.
It's too much.
It's breaking the core premise of what the game was trying to do.
Yeah.
Where like the premise of the game was trying to be this thing where like it was, again, it was breaking a little bit of that, like what is the promise the game is trying to deliver? What is the goal that the game is trying to deliver?
Yeah.
And pretty early on, it was pretty low level where the character could just pop people from like very large distances. And it's like, this feels like we're straying into that Wild West, movie territory, which is fine.
If that's what you're going for.
Yeah, it's a fine route to go with.
It also just pigeonholes DMs or GMs away from being able to write confrontation with big bads. Not big bads, you just write it in a different way, but confrontations with big bads is kind of off the table if you have a character that could just one-shot someone.
Yeah.
Without any resistance. They just can do that. And then, they have to deal with the consequences after. But if the point of the story is that there's a big bad that needs to get taken out, that big bad cannot show their face in the entirety of the campaign until the moment where it's okay to kill them.
I think when we were talking about it, when we were talking how like dealing with it, I had that scene from Django in my head. Where what's the name of the German doctor? Schultz, yeah. Where Schultz and Django are up on the ridge, and the guy's like farming at like whatever 500 feet away, and Django just takes him out.
Yep.
And it's like,
and if you could do that to the big bad, it means the big bad could just never show their face.
Yeah, it's one of those things where again, it's the consequences of your storytelling or of how you tell your story would just have to be dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah. But like, so there's a million ways to do it where that is a mechanic where, maybe the true story is behind the consequences of you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the big bad doesn't show their face. Or maybe you just don't write a big bad. Maybe it's a group. Maybe you have to work your way through the group. Whatever. And then inherently the last one would be okay to do that too, because it's the last one. Why is it the last one? Because it's the last one you decide to go after. There's a million stories you could write, but where it pigeonholes you is there's a story you can't write, and it's a common one.
Yeah.
Which is you could have zero confrontation with the big bad when you have a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
Because your player could just be like, okay, I kill them. Okay, roll for it. I don't have to. My modifiers are high enough. I just get to do it. Oh, I guess the campaign's over. And all we did, by the way, it's still possible to one-shot someone. Possible to one-shot someone. But now
it uses
it's a called shot.
It uses a lot of resources.
And it uses a special action, which most people have a way of, I think everybody has a way of achieving, where you're doing the called shot, so it's the -10, you get an extra D12. I know these numbers won't make sense to the audience. You get an extra D12, and then you use the special action to put another D12 on that, which is already just those two D12s, the average HP of someone. But
maximum of
the maximum of the dice is the average HP, is all I meant. But you have to roll that. You have to roll that high.
Yeah.
So it's possible to just auto pop someone, but it's not guaranteed anymore. And that, I think, brings joy back to the game. Because maybe you have that moment where you're Django on the mountain and you take the shot and you miss. Or you take the shot and you hit because you're a good shot and you graze them. And then they run for cover and they have a whole gang behind them and they know where you are now.
Yeah.
Well, now there's consequences. So,
Yeah.
like, it gives the possibility of writing that story, and it gives the possibility of other things to happen.
Yeah. Again, it's
And that was purely a balance thing. Because a logic thing in this world, like, yeah, if you could get if all it takes to shoot a person is rolling a 12 or higher, and you could get a plus 12 and you roll a 32, you should be able to headshot people logically. But
it's also balancing to a point. So like the point that you're trying to balance to
yeah,
is the goal of the game, or the goal of the kind of story and the kind of ways that you want your players to play. So like it's balancing for the sake of a reason. The same thing for like why D&D like 5e
well, it's also
balances. It balances to like
to be superheroes. It's also just balance and consideration of like, well, now NPCs could do that. Because before, if you just have an NPC that has a really high modifier and can just insta-kill people, and you're just fishing for a crit fail, or you insta-kill someone, and you give that to an NPC that's an enemy of your player party, it's like, oh, you're just insta-killing your players?
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
But now it's something a little more reasonable that you guys have to look out for.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have a sharpshooter. In fact, 103rd, would it surprise you? Would it surprise you if they had a sharpshooter amongst their guys?
Oh, I mean,
So, like, be
we
careful.
We had it in the game where it part of the reason why that led to some of these discussions was we had it where like we ran in recklessly to some of our story events, story beats, and like the people around us were getting fucking popped and we're getting like either downed or pretty close to dead. And it's like, oh yeah, this can be used against us. This isn't just like oh hey, we're players and we get to do whatever we want in this world, and like we have these strong abilities, we can do these things. It's like the Otis of the game. Part of the like the lead design philosophies was like you wanted to have it, your characters could go to a bar and the bartender could pull out a shotgun and you're dead.
It's possible. Yeah.
It's possible.
Don't just walk into a bar full of gunslingers and start shooting people, because even if you're a superhero level 20, the bartender could get a shot off and crit and you could be fucked.
Or like even the bartender may have more experience with it. You can go to the fucking ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
And a guy enjoying a fucking vanilla cone in the corner, and you decide to rob the ice cream shop. That guy in the corner who just has an iron on his hip for protection.
Yeah, check your corners.
Yeah, he decides to get a pop off because he doesn't like thieves. And it's like, yeah, and you're down, and that's it for that player. And it's like, yeah, dude, that could happen.
Yeah.
And that's
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely that the NPC would roll that high. It's unlikely that the NPC would roll damage that high. It's unlikely that... Yeah, it's unlikely. But it just makes you think about checking corners when you walk into an ice cream shop to rob it. If you're going to go do a robbery, check your corners.
Yeah.
Because in this world...
Yeah, and even like the inherent, even if you don't die from it, the inherent consequences of taking that much damage.
Yeah, healing sucks.
That all plays into it because it's part of the design philosophy of the game, and then building everything else around it. It's kind of like it's kind of what Gray was talking about earlier in terms of like the aspects of how you're balancing and what you're balancing and what you're trying to think of. It's again, everything is to a point. It's like, well, what is it that you're trying to do? So like you're logically coming at something because you're trying to consider something. You're trying to consider the real world. You're balancing because you want 5e. You want everyone to be superheroes. And then what's your feel? You want everyone to feel like they're strong and powerful. You want everyone to feel like.
In my mind, logic isn't necessarily related to the real world, but related to
I
that world.
was relating it to an earlier part of the conversation.
Well, just like D&D, you wouldn't expect the logic of the world to kill you for brandishing your sword in an ice cream shop. It wouldn't be an expectation.
Should be.
I mean, you'd probably be charged with.
It depends on the world, though. I mean, like, classic D&D 5e, you're a level 8 whatever, and you walk into an ice cream shop, you don't think, if I don't hide my dagger, then this is going to be the end of my character. You just don't think that way in D&D 5e classically.
I mean,
You
you'd
don't
probably be
think that.
charged with public indecency. You can't just wave your sword around. That's disgusting.
There's a dating app for that. We just advertised.
No, he's not invited.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think the logic depends on the world, but that doesn't take away from what you were saying of like,
Yeah.
what you can only balance to something. Are you trying to balance it across your players? Are you trying to balance it player to NPC to make sure that like NPCs could potentially have these feats too? Are you trying to balance it in a way where your protagonists can be superheroes and you're going to fight demigods?
Yeah. It also could be like, again, it's where your mindset is coming from. Like, you could also want to build a system that's like a JRPG, where a lot of JRPGs have it like your character is slashing a sword and he's taking out fucking 20 enemies, and it's just horde mechanics and it's just shit's happening at you and you're just like just doing things.
And
So-
in that case, you're doing more like balance and feel than logic.
yeah. So like, again, it can apply in so many, various and unique ways. Well,
Sick, bro. Play us out.
I had it.
Actually, don't play us out. Thank you everybody for listening to
Oh,
Take
yeah,
the
yeah, we
Damage
did do all that.
podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
I'm Greythorn.
You can catch me with all my various links in the description, but the important one being startplaying.games /GM/SOV. I think it'll also be in the description.
Yeah, if I have anything, it'll be in the description. Probably a YouTube channel, but we'll see.
We're just gonna get real lazy about it and be like, yeah, description.
Yeah, it'll be in the description.
Fuck memorizing links.
Gray? You got stuff in the description?
You can catch Gray
the description,
46783.
Oh my god.
The description. Twitch.tv/Greythorn. I stream my online games almost every Friday. And then you can find those archived on YouTube at Highbar Greythorn. I'm sure there'll be a description, right? There's a description and links.
I think
Yeah.
it sounds like there's going to be a description.
Yeah. I think
Links in there in the description.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe underneath the video that they're watching, there might be something that's called description. Like a
Unless
little
you've
box.
pirated it. All right, everybody say your links again. All right, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next session.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. I like that.
Oh.
Oh, that was good. See you guys.
You get
Yeah, you keep staring. They can't see it.
I know. I just want to.
nothing. We're just giving you the opportunity to say goodbye to the fans.
No. Their terms, they have not been met.
What are the terms? Because I think those were.
The old show.
Let's get hyped.
That is not the outro music.
Dude, it's not in there.
It's the podcast one. It's the same one.
Let's go and see.
Oh, I love the fact that we're cutting back in. This is still main show, guys.
We are professional podcasters.
That's still main show.
It's not in there.
No. Oh my God, don't stop again. I mean, every time you stop it, the music hasn't played us out yet, so we're still in the main show. Because we haven't been played out yet. Every time you pause it, we're back in the main show. Just welcome back, everybody. We're still in the main show. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Because we haven't been played out yet.
Well, you see, Sav is working off the feel of it.
See, I have no
I don't know why you keep
logic.
stopping it.
And the balance is
The actual logic is that the show is over, but the feel is that the improper song has been played and not played to full
Only
extent.
once. There's been like 3 stops. I only called it out once. It was only the first one that I called out.
We're
that it was
still
a wrong
here.
Song. Because he still hasn't played us out.
we're still in the main show.
This is still main show.
Yeah, I still want to keep us here for a little bit longer while we're doing this because again, we talked a little bit about this. I want to see the statistics. I want to see who's still here.
After we end it 3 times.
Like, who's still at this point in the show? Like, hey, dude,
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've already checked out.
you comment. I want to know who you are. Like, if you're here,
Like and subscribe. Hit the bell.
nice to see you, buddy. So, which one am I playing? Am I playing just the intro theme?
Yes.
Okay. You know, oh God, if I was funny, I would have played Blue Table.